One Piece took the cover of the magazine this week with a painting of Luffy. Inside, there's a really cool Shanks card that was drawn by Yuto Suzuki, the creator of Sakamoto Days. As a kid, I used to love getting Yu-Gi-Oh! Promo cards from Jump. We also have a color spread of the Straw Hats enjoying their own version of Hogwarts. Sanji had Nami in his arms. He concluded that this couldn't possibly be a dream since there are so many guys around, which made Nami question the sort of dreams he's been having. Ignoring the question, he leapt off of the Lego cliffside with her in tow. Usopp warned them that the place is falling apart. Luffy woke up on the other side of town. Although Zoro is directionally challenged, by following the noise, he was able to find Luffy beating up the giant rabbit. Luffy was pretty sure that Usopp was strong enough by now to win against the big cat. The sniper defended himself by saying he was already inside the thing's mouth when he woke up, which totally threw him off. Usopp was certain that their current outfits are similar to what the Giants of Elbaf wear, but he couldn't imagine they'd have clothes that fit humans. Also, what's up with Usopp's physique? He's back to looking like his pre-time skip self. If this is somehow Elbaf, Nami wondered if they might have been gigantified. If that were true, Big Mom would be very happy. She was also certain that the tree in front of her was not real. Zoro figured that asking the townfolk would help clear things up. After all, their current location is way too big, and they can't tell where the sea is. Sanji was certain that the rest of the crew wasn't around. Usopp wondered how he could be so sure. While sniffing the air, Sanji proudly claimed that his radar wasn't detecting Robin. This man Sanji is an actual fiend. That is an unhinged level of perversion. Luffy was eager to ask around in town and explore. Usopp felt the same way. Nami didn't understand their enthusiasm since they don't know anything about this place. And despite the vastness, they couldn't feel any wind. Sanji let Nami know that he's here for her. And at the top of the castle, on a flag, we can see yet another new symbol. Just then, they noticed something hopping in their direction. Nami and Sanji were disgusted, but Luffy was excited. A big man was riding a grasshopper like a Harley. He assumed that they must be new around here. Sanji and Nami raced away from the big bug. Luffy asked the old man who he is and where they are, and if he knows where their crewmates might be, which was a lot to ask in just a single breath. The old guy apologized, since he's in a rush and doesn't have much time to talk. He let them know that this land belongs to the Sun God. The mention of God caught Luffy's attention. He also mentioned that the big castle belongs to the Great Iscat, another deity. They had no idea that someone actually lives there, but the man explained that it's actually just a cat. Luffy began to apologize for beating the brakes off of the cat, but Usopp managed to stop him just in time. Effectively, this is a land of gods. Anyways, he needs to go feed the Needle God since it must be hungry by now. Nami had to keep her lips sealed since she may have sealed the creature's fate with Zeus. Apparently, this guy was delayed since the Ear God, a rabbit, was believed to have burned to death. He also let them know that they can find rations in town if they're hungry. Usopp was still covering Luffy's mouth, and everyone else pretended to know nothing about the disaster. The man also warned them not to follow the road they're traveling. Beyond this point, the Rabbit Guardians protect the Sun God's temple. No one has gone there and survived. Nami begged the man to shift his wording, but it was already too late. Luffy raced down the road before anyone could stop him. Usopp thanked the old man. Nami flashed him a cute apology, and it seemed to work. Zoro put on a devious expression at the thought of the Guardians too. Sanji complained about Luffy and Zoro enabling each other's bad behavior. At the same time, the old man was disturbed by the current state of the castle. Luffy was compelled by the allure of adventure. The others trailed behind him. They couldn't see any buildings ahead of them and wondered how long this road must be. And I really hope this road is made of yellow bricks in the anime. They also noticed another castle that looks just like the previous one. Luffy noticed something else. He spotted another guy in Elbaf gear running in his direction and decided to dodge him. That's when Luffy crashed headfirst into a mirror reflection of himself, a true testament to the Emperor's intelligence. They were all shocked to see that the sky itself seemed to be breaking. Zoro wondered what the hell was going on. Hitting this thing at full speed was pretty painful. The townsfolk were losing their minds. Everything was going wrong today. The crew looked beyond the glass and took in the implications. They're actually inside a giant room, but this is not the giant pirate ship. There was also a bit of wire netting. Sanji expected there to be more giants in this direction. He wondered if this was all just a big pet cage. Just then, a familiar voice cried out for help. Chopper was literally crying at the sight of them. Zoro removed his steel collar. Nami was there to comfort him, but planned on charging for it later, which Usopp was not a fan of since she was terrified only a little while ago. Again, this is clearly a giant's room, so the fact that it has this much human-sized clothing is pretty disturbing. They're also pretty well made, so Usopp assumed that the Sun God must be very skilled. So this is confirmation that the outfits the Straw Hats are wearing are in fact real. So the visual inconsistencies from the previous chapter were not on purpose. That is a bit concerning. I have to wonder if the editors of One Piece are reluctant to point things out to a veteran like Oda. Oda's been with the magazine for so long that it's hard to imagine many staff members being older than him at this point. A lot of them probably grew up with the series and might not want to rock the boat. This is actually a point that was brought up by Kazuhiko Torishima a little over a year ago. Torishima was the first editor of Dragon Ball and was the editor-in-chief of Shonen Jump when One Piece began serialization. He is easily one of the most impactful figures in manga history, and in this case, I can definitely see his point. Luffy pointed out that there are a lot of blocks all over the place. The entire country is made of them. Now Sanji understood why it smelled so bad when they cooked up the giant rabbit. It was the smell of burning plastic. Sanji also noted that the view from their location is never ending. Strangely, they can see through the glass now. It's like an observation room you might find in an old police station. Seeing that, Sanji volunteered to clean the ladies' room on the Sunny, obviously intending to use this glass. To that, an outraged Nami kicked him in the face. Honestly, Sanji's bounty should rise from that statement alone. This man is a menace to society. He is doing way too much this chapter. Although, the dream joke was really funny. He clearly hasn't changed his stance on acquiring the invisibility devil fruit. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up fighting Shiryu later on because he has it. Zoro wondered if this is some giant's sick hobby. Usopp was creeped out too, but at the very least, this should mean that they're on Elbaf. Nami wasn't so sure about that. All they know for sure is that a giant is responsible for this. So everyone who expected a detour instead of the crew making it straight to Elbaf might be correct. Chopper advocated for their escape. He did not want to run into the giant. Usopp's idea was to get more information from the people in town. He preferred dealing with them over dealing with a giant. Usopp asked their captain if he was listening. Luffy was listening, but decided to deal with the giant snake that was approaching them first. Below, Nami noticed 3 devious-looking rats. Overhead, there was a crow with a skull on its head. These are the Rabid Temple Guardians. Although, this was hardly much of a temple. Luffy was still full from the rabbit meat, so instead of eating, he was just going to knock these guys away. Screaming could be heard while a certain giant approached the room. They were confused by the sounds they heard, but this didn't really mess with their pace. They're wearing heels, so perhaps this character is female. But then again, perhaps not. Guys like Duval wear heels, and Usopp is wearing heels right now. Usopp warned them not to mess around. They need to take the Guardians out before the Sun God shows up. The giant was alarmed by the smoke escaping from the door. Luffy ended up going too far. They broke the fireplace, causing flames to spread throughout the room, which made the giant even more concerned. The Sun God entered to see their temple being engulfed by flames. Luffy has also activated Gear 5, which I can't imagine is really necessary, so yeah, he's going too far. Usopp freaked out. He told Luffy that the Sun God is back and insisted that they make a run for it. Zoro cut down the crow named Mujin, much to the Sun God's horror. Meanwhile, Luffy wound up a punch. He hit the giant snake with a booming dawn pistol. The Sun God cried out for the snake named Heilmangander. Based on their appearances and names, it seems like the Guardians are based on the World Serpent and Odin's ravens from Norse mythology. According to them, this giant is especially big, so maybe he's an ancient giant like Oars. Chopper was in his walk point form, and it looks like Zoro is missing his eye covering in this panel, which he has on in the next one as he notices something ahead. It was Iscat. The fat feline was furious. But after a good bonk, the cat became their personal car. Through tears and gritted teeth, it promised to make them pay for this indignity. Nami didn't pay it any mind though. While looking for treasure, she managed to find a blueprint for the entire block country. It's pretty much a map. The sun god cursed them for the destruction. According to the map, if they keep heading straight, they'll break through the mirror on the other side. They'll be free if they break the wall behind it. And because the sun god didn't see any of this coming, I have to wonder who or what may have caused certain illusions, like the cat suddenly turning into a lion. Technically, the cat could be a devil fruit user. All the more reason to fear water, I guess. The other humans were terrified. The sun god was clearly pissed off. They refused to allow anyone to escape. Despite what was previously stated, I'm not even sure why they're really running from the sun god at all. I can totally get why Usopp would suggest it, but it's not like he's only here with Nami and Chopper. Luffy was already in Gear 5 for a few critters, but he turned it off once the sun god showed up. Luffy and Zoro were eager to kick some rabid guardian tail, then suddenly decided to turn tail when the sun god hasn't done anything besides being big and mad. Hell, if they want answers, who better to ask than the weirdo responsible? Admittedly, the big three are clearly unfazed by the giant chasing them, but I can't see why they wouldn't beat the sun god up. Considering his behavior in this chapter, I'm surprised Sanji isn't mad about the sun god dressing Nami up like a doll. Confusion aside though, this chapter was a lot of fun. The kind of wacky fun we saw plenty of prior to the time skip. But be sure to let us know what you think about it in the comments. As always, I'm Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.